Live long and prosper.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Bow ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds.
Hello, and welcome to episode 118 of A Play on Nerds. I am one of your co-hosts, Jarman.
And I'm the other co-host, Steve, and we're here to co-host the hell out of this.
Heck, yes, we are. It's been a little while since we've had our last episode.
Yeah, I mean, life happened. I took a trip.
Yeah, and I was finishing a giant project, so, we were both busy.
It was the timing was perfect. I went away right when he needed time.
It's true. And what are we covering today, Steve?
So today, we are going to be talking Game of Thrones, the highly anticipated return. We're a little bit late to the game. We're sorry, life happens.
That's right.
But the important thing is now we have 2 whole episodes we can talk about, and we are going to discuss some of our own theories that we've cultivated, heard, loved about this season and where we think this show is going to end.
And after these 2 episodes have already aired, there's only 5 episodes left, right?
Or 4. There's only 6 this season?
Well, I thought it was 7 for some reason, but you're probably
I don't know.
right.
I thought it was, no, here's the thing. I thought it was 7 too. Episode.
We're so well prepared.
No, I had the same thing where I was like, it's 7. And someone said, no, it's 6. And I was like, oh, I thought it was 7.
Yeah, I thought I heard 7 somewhere too. What does the interwebs tell us?
6.
Damn.
6 episodes.
So we were very fortunate because we were like, well, what's the point of doing this episode now that it's already been 2 episodes? Because I'm sure people would have died already. But luckily, no one has died yet.
Yeah,
in the first
nobody
2
has
episodes.
died yet. Okay, we're going to get into that later.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to talk about it. But in the meantime, what you were finishing a project. You get to do anything else?
Yeah, I've done a few things. I went to see Richard II, which was fun at the local Shakespeare Theater. That was a lot of fun. Just finished up that big project, which I can talk about soon. It's going to get released, I think, next week or so that could be cool.
Oh, that's killer.
Yeah. And then also went to a concert. It was called the Oakley Dokleys. It's a heavy metal band.
Heavy metal Ned Flanders band.
Yes. And
speaking of heavy metal,
there's some heavy metal outside your door.
Damn.
But I didn't realize they were just a scream only metal band. I'm not a fan of that. There was no singing.
Oh yeah, they're pretty hardcore.
Right. But the opening band was called Bear Ghost, and they were amazing. They're from Arizona, and they're basically like kind of like ska pop rock, but they do a lot of nerdy songs with chiptunes added in, and also did like covers of Disney songs, and that's in that style. And there's 3-part harmony with them, and there are 3 guitars, 3-part harmony, and the drums. But I was really digging that band. I'm not much of a music guy, but that was really fun. And then Oakley Dokley came on as the main act afterwards, and we just kind of hung back.
Destroyed everyone.
Yeah, we were just like not that into it, but but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, is that your radical recommend for the week? Bear Ghost?
It is not, but I will recommend them as a separate recommend. Go check them out on Spotify. Bear Ghost. They're really fun and cute. It's fun. So yeah, that was my time. What have you been up to?
Yeah, we went and took the kid to Pittsburgh to see my folks for an early Easter. My mom called it unorthodox Easter because we were a week early, but it was the only time that both us and my brother and his wife and their kid could show up. So we got to spend time together as a big family and had my daughter and the cousins together and having all sorts of fun, and did big bubbles and went to the children's museum and hunted for Easter baskets and dyed eggs and did all that stuff a week early.
Nice.
And then we came back. We had a very low key Easter. Anna's mom came down and joined us. We had a nice picnic in the Rose Garden here. And other than that, we played Dungeon World in the campaign that you and I are playing together.
That's right. Steve and I somehow found time to do that, but not record an episode.
That's right. Well, I did it like the night I got back. I was dog tired.
Oh, yeah.
Just happy to not be on a plane.
And you're just a player in this one, so you're not having to prep anything.
Yeah, it takes a lot less. I just show up and say dumb stuff.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun.
But yeah, happy to be back. And I think if I remember correctly from so long ago, that takes us into some nerd news.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I think you're right.
It's time for Nerdy News.
So
All right.
I've been a total slacker, and this is the first week in a very long time that I don't have a nerdy news story. But
That's okay.
I think Steve does.
I brought a double dose and a Clippy name.
Oh, wonderful. That's the
Clippy
best
name
part.
is Life and Death Situation.
Nice.
I've got two stories. The first one, life. Paleontologists have discovered an ancient crab about the size of a quarter that lived during the time of the dinosaurs and is being called by paleontologists that found it the platypus of the crabs. And that evolutionarily, it is the goofiest thing imaginable. So its scientific name is the Calichimera perplexa, which means perplexing beautiful chimera. The chimera in mythology was made up of all these different creatures, and that's basically what they're saying this thing is.
Right. It's like a mixture of two things that shouldn't really go together.
It's got giant eyes that, if they were on a human, would be the size of soccer balls. It has a finger-like mouth like a shrimp.
Gross.
It's got weird monkey wrench-shaped front claws, elongated shell like a lobster with a tail, and its back claws were shaped kind of like sea turtle fins.
Just amalgamation of weird shit.
Right, and originally they thought it was a like a filter feeder, but now they think this goofy bastard, actively hunted. So that's life, and then death. As Disney finally takes over Fox and is starting to share some of the longer term plans for all the stuff they got out of the corpse of Fox, they're dumping some stuff and kicking some stuff to the curb.
Really?
Yeah, some of the movies, the biggest of which was simply titled Mouse Guard, and was greenlit with a budget of $170 million.
Whoa.
And they scrapped that immediately.
That was going to be a Fox film?
Yes.
Gotcha.
But Disney apparently has a policy they don't spend that much money on non-franchise films.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Some other ones, a Tom Hanks picture called News of the World, which was actually bought up by Universal. Paramount swung in and picked up an adaptation of some award-winning book called On the Come Up. Also just kicked right out. No one picked this one up. A movie called Fruit Loops, a dramedy set in a mental hospital.
That sounds offensive.
An inside source says that Disney is really wrestling because Spielberg had signed on to do West Side Story with Fox, like a very good, true rendition. And now they are wondering if he can do the way he wants to do with Disney and their restrictions for what they will and will not show on screen.
Yeah, and they said they're still going to use Fox to do more edgy and more R-rated films. That'll be their vehicle for pushing out those movies. So they're not getting rid of Fox, like they'll still use it for that.
No. But Fox 2000, which was like a smaller film indie, got completely gutted and destroyed.
Jeez.
Of the movies I said, 3 of those 4 were from Fox 2000.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it would be a big shakeup.
Yeah. So that's life and death situation.
I do have a little bit of nerdy news, and I think of it just that they haven't officially released it yet, but the trailer for the Mandalorian has escaped online. But it's several people just basically filming it at a Star Wars celebration, and it looks pretty finished to me, the trailer. So they might release it soon officially, but you can see the whole thing and see it pretty well, and it looks amazing. It looks simply astounding, and that's going to be on their Disney Plus service. And it stars the guy from Game of Thrones who got his head crushed, Oberyn Martell. He plays the Mandalorian.
Right.
So it looks exciting. He's pretty much in his helmet the entire time. So I don't know if they're ever going to show his face, but it looks great. It looks freaking great. Oh, and it's got
so he doesn't have to do his own stunts.
Yeah, it's got Apollo Creed in it. From Rocky.
Oh, Dolph Lundgren.
No, not that guy. That's the Russian.
Oh, Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers. Yeah, he's in it in a major part. He plays like a.
You got yourself a stew going.
The guy with no hand and the Happy Gilmore.
Yes.
So yeah, that's some news right there for you.
So before we get into Game of Thrones, I have a segment that I've entitled Siege the Day.
Creative.
Where I'm going to talk about some of, as the battle for Winterfell and the Siege of Winterfell is upon us, I want to talk about some other sieges through history that happened. So there's the Siege of Megiddo, which is from 15th century BC and is one of the earliest recorded sieges that they've been able to pull out of the history books. An Egyptian pharaoh headed up into Mesopotamia to put down a bunch of rebel cities. They met in the field in battle. His armies made short work of the rebels, but then his men got cocky, and instead of chasing down the rebels and stopping them once and for all, they decided to raid a supply camp. The rebel forces were able to pull into the city Megiddo and hold out. And a 7-month siege began.
Jeez.
Eventually, sick and tired and weak from disease and not being able to get rid of bodies and stuff, they sent out their youngest children to plea for mercy. And the Pharaoh allowed it and let them off with basically a warning, and they had to swear an oath of loyalty.
Wow. That's basically the idea of a siege, right? Just tire them out and deplete their resources.
Who breaks first?
Right.
Alexander the Great, 322 BC, he sets his eyes on the city called Tyre, small city about a half mile off of the coast of Lebanon.
That's like Tyre, right? I think.
Yeah. It was on an island, had high walls, it was well supplied, they had an excellent navy. So they get there, and Alexander orders his force of 35,000 to start building a giant bridge out into the water over this sandbar that apparently at the time geologists have looked at it, was actually rising. So it was the perfect vehicle for him to get over. They build this bridge. Once they get it long enough, he brings his siege weapons and starts shooting at the walls while they continue to build the bridge the rest of the way. And then finally his men make it to the wall. Another 7th month siege ensues, and they finally do break the walls, fight their ways in the city, and took the city of Tyre.
That's why he was such a badass.
The land bridge was so big and so vast, over the years, the wreckage from it gathered silt, and what used to be an island is now a peninsula.
Oh, goodness.
Because the land just formed around this massive unnatural thing.
Wow.
As currents and
still
sand
there
got
to this
pulled into
day.
It is still into this day.
Wow.
And then finally, the British's first major military encounter with the Zulus.
Mm.
All right, so British were really cocky, like really, really cocky when they first got to Africa. They saw everyone as savages, and they thought that a few guns could put down hundreds of them. It was real dumb. So these 2,000 British soldiers march into this area called Inzlendwana. I tried. They decide to go during the harvest season. This is someone's brilliant plan. They're going to go during the harvest season because they think all the male warriors will be tending the fields. But what they don't know is that harvest season is when the military really picks up, because they're getting ready to move all their cargo and move their harvest for the year. So all the warriors were like up in arms. 20,000 Zulus attack these 2,000 guys. These 2,000 guys set up camp for the night and didn't bother to set up defenses. That's how cocky they were. 20,000 Zulus make short work of them. The Zulus' backup force of about 4,000 guys get bored, and they run 20 miles to attack another British outpost. It was a military outpost, really well stocked and fortified. Over the course of about 150 men. Over the course of 11 hours, those 150 men fired more than 19,000 bullets.
Jesus.
But killed only 300 Zulu warriors.
Wow.
After 11 hours, the Zulus finally broke the siege, and the British forces walked away and had only lost 15 men.
Wow. But they gave up, though?
The Zulus did eventually break the siege, yes.
I mean, like the British gave up.
They walked away. No, the British made it.
Oh, so the British held the siege, basically.
Yes.
Wow.
The siege broke.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, just some crazy sieges through history to get your mind thinking as we get into Game of Thrones Season 8 and the next episode, The Battle for Winterfell.
Yeah. Feel that music.
I get chills every time.
It's like, everyone shut up. Everyone shut up. Don't make any noises. Don't talk.
Oh, man. We watched with my Aunt Di, who, like, you know, Tessa, my cousin, like passively was like, everyone really needs to be quiet because I really want to hear this. And then 2 minutes and Aunt Di's like, oh, that's that guy from season 2.
Shut up.
Aunt Di, shut up.
Isn't that one guy too? That the thing, the place.
Yeah, so during the opening where the little boy is running, my cousin Allie was like, "Oh, is that the boy who fell from the tower?" And her fiance or her boyfriend goes, "No, sweetie, that was 7 seasons ago." We were watching with a mixed crowd.
Yeah, seems like it. So I was fortunate enough to watch the last episode at my friend Buddy's house, Buddy and Jamie, and they have this one of the bedrooms, and they're upstairs. They turned into a movie room, so they have this giant sectional couch that that just barely fits in there. It's huge, and then they have 7.1 surround sound, a
Beautiful
90-inch projection screen that has a 3D 4K projector projecting onto it.
Holy crap.
And it's completely blackout curtains. So it was like an amazing experience. And
That's how you do it.
What's so sad is I'm not watching next week's episode with the big battle in their house, because that would be amazing. But instead I'll be watching it in Atlanta, where I'm visiting some friends with Kate. So we'll be watching it on a regular size TV probably.
That's okay. Just put a sheet over your head. It'll seem the same.
Exactly.
Blackout.
So before we did this, we weren't sure what was going to happen for the second episode. So we scrambled to at least record our draft. So do you want to explain how this draft worked that we did, Steve?
Yeah. So we chose 24 major characters with dragons and direwolves as kind of bonus characters. And each of us is starting with 12 points. And for each character that dies, we're going to lose a point. And our bet is whoever has the most points at the end. So the most living characters at the end.
They get the most points.
Only special rules that we put in was that if somebody dies and then is resurrected, they are worth a half a point.
Right.
Unless they then die again.
And that point's
removed. Then that point's removed. That half point's removed.
And the system, it's a little different than most things you're probably seeing out there, where everyone just gives their list of who they think lives and dies. What we did was we picked our teams. So I got to pick first. So I picked one person. Then he gets to pick two people. Then I get to pick two people,
yeah,
back and forth.
You're going to hear it. It's like a football draft.
And so,
but we did it for nerd stuff.
Like I showed Kate that afterwards who I picked, and she's like, "Why'd you pick that person?" I'm like, "No, I wouldn't have chosen to pick that person, but I was stuck with them at the end." You know?
Yeah. So, sometimes you're stuck with bad ones. So it's just really a question of who got stuck with more bad ones.
So I'm gonna play that recording here. The audio quality is not as our usual because it was just a off the cuff quick recording.
It was a rush job. We're sorry.
Yeah. So this here is our draft for season 7. Who will live? Who will die?
So this is how a round robin works.
Oh, we pick somebody. I take turns picking somebody. Okay.
So one of us goes, So one of us goes first and picks one.
This shows how not sports related I am.
Whoever goes second picks 2, and then you pick by 2s until the person who picked first gets stuck with the last pick.
All right.
So we're talking about most who we think is most likely to die.
Gotcha. All right. I am going to use a roll generator to roll, see who goes first.
Okay.
Roll 1 virtual dice. I guess I'm going to roll a d6. So let's roll the dice. Random.org. I got a 6. I think that means I go first.
All right, you go first. So you pick first, then I pick second, third.
So I pick 2 people?
No, you pick 1 since you get to go first.
Oh, okay. All right. So it was my team. I want them to be alive. Then we'll change it to that. Then if it's teams, then that's why I think that makes more sense.
Okay, so then whoever has the highest amount of points at the end of the season wins.
With most alive people, yeah.
The most alive people.
I am gonna go with one that my girlfriend will like. I'm gonna pick Sansa Stark.
Okay, so Jarman's taking Sansa. Okay. All right, so I picked second and third.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick the Hound.
All right.
Followed by Tormund Giantsbane.
Really? That's a interesting pick.
All right, now you pick 2.
All right. All right, I will pick Brienne of Tarth. It's a good, solid pick, I think. And I'll go with a Jaime Lannister.
Ooh, Jaime Lannister. Okay, bold.
I kind of want them to fall in love and like be together in the end, but I know it's not going to happen. That's my shipping.
All right, so I will then choose Davos Seaworth.
Davos Seaworth, all right.
And Podrick Payne.
Nice. You made the list.
Yeah, so this was originally like 32 some, and Anna helped me cut it down to 20.
That's probably a good idea. All right. So I do think they're just going to go with it where Daenerys will live, even though I don't really care if she does or not.
Fair.
So that's one. And
so
then
Daenerys, okay.
Then I'll go with Theon. He gets his happy ending.
Okay. I will choose Tyrion.
Okay.
I really don't think he's going to make it. And there's really no one picked Jon Snow.
No.
I'll take Jon Snow.
All right. First seed. I think that's what that means. All right. I got my two right out the bat here. I think one of them may die or both, but I'm still going to try for it. Grey Worm and Arya Stark. I'm surprised you don't have Bren or Bran. You don't have him on here.
He was one of the last 2 or 3 cut. Actually.
Gotcha.
It was tough, but he almost made it. Okay, so we only have a few choices left.
Right.
Some
that kind of sucks. We're like, they're probably going to die.
That's right. I will choose Sir Jorah Mormont.
Okay.
And Melisandre.
Picking like the last slightly good people.
That's right. So right now we have left the Night King.
Euron Greyjoy.
The Mountain.
Bronn the Blackwater.
Yeah, and Bronn the Blackwater.
And Cersei Lannister.
Okay, those are the last 5 left.
All right. Well, I'm going to steal Bronn of the Blackwater.
Okay.
Last decent good guy left. And just because I think she's got a better shot than the Mountain or the Night King, I'm going with Cersei Lannister.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Then I will, because I like the idea that everyone loses, I'm going to go with the Night King. Maybe I'll have a big upset.
All right.
And wait, who's left? Who am I missing?
Only Euron Greyjoy is left.
So wait, you chose Cersei?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I got one more person than you because there's 21 people. And I picked one first and then...
no, but I've got 2 to pick right now. I just picked 1. So I've got 2 left.
I got
1 left.
Only Euron's left. Oh, and the Mountain. You're right. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I choose 1 and then you get whoever's left over.
Right.
Because you chose first. Yeah, so it worked. It worked, Charmin.
Somehow it worked. Math.
Since Euron, I think, is more likely to slink away, I'm going to go with Euron.
That's a good bet, actually. Yeah, that makes sense. That means I'm
He's
stuck with the Mountain. Maybe he'll just go out and live in the hills somewhere, the Mountain, or he'll get healed, or yeah, maybe they'll heal all the undead at the end, so they all turn back to their living selves. So he'll just become the living.
All
Mountain.
right, I like that.
Who knows?
Okay, so to confirm, you each now have 10 points. Let's. Your draft picks are Jaime Lannister, Cersei Lannister. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Daenerys Targaryen, Sansa Stark, Arya Stark, Grey Worm, Theon Greyjoy, Bran of Tarth, the Mountain, and Bronn of the Blackwater.
Right.
My list is Tyrion, Jon Snow, Davos Seaworth, the Hound, Tormund Giantsbane, Jorah Mormont, Melisandre, which we haven't seen yet, so that could be total shit.
She was seen briefly, I think. They just panned over her face.
Podrick Payne, and the Night King.
This is me interesting. It really could go either direction in any way. I have no idea.
Okay. So the highest score at the end of the season wins.
Perfect.
If they die and are resurrected, not as a White Walker resurrection, I don't think counts.
No.
Joyce,
If they're dying and resurrected, though, that's half point.
Half point? All right. That's fair.
Okay. Unless they then die again and are not resurrected, then that goes back to 0.
It's at the end of the show.
Anything could happen. We're talking about magic and dragons.
It's true. Anything could happen.
And then I was thinking we could do a bonus point for the dragons. I don't know.
And the surviving direwolves.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so dragon. Who do we have left? So it's Drogon.
I forgot their names.
And Rhaegon or Viserion, who's left? Viserion died. Rhaegal and Drogon. And then we have Ghost.
Is Ghost the only one that's left?
Ghost and Nymeria.
Oh, yeah.
There's like conspiracy theories that Shaggy Dog's still alive. But Summer is dead. Shaggy Dog is presumably dead. Lady is dead. So what do you think? We each pick one dragon. We each pick one.
Yeah.
Okay. you want to pick Dragon first or?
Yeah, let's do Dragon first. You went last, so I guess I'll go.
Okay.
Drogon's the big main one, right?
That's the big main one, yeah.
Then I'll go with Rhaegal, the smaller one, staying alive. More wily, maybe.
So let me add them onto
Be more of
here.
a blow if the big one dies.
Rhaegal, so I'm taking Drogon, and then I will take Nymeria because I don't think we're going to see her at all again.
So we very well could be alive. All right.
And you'll get Ghost. Who knows if that's going to happen? Man, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice little bonus round there. So that's our draft. And after that, we now are going to talk about predictions of what we think will happen in the end of season 7.
Okay. So my first prediction is I'm calling it the Bran staring prediction.
There's a lot of, by the way, I should do something first before we go forward.
Spoilers through all of this, by the way. Oh my God. If you haven't watched or intend to watch, do not listen beyond this point. I said some stuff earlier that I shouldn't have said, kind of.
Well,
just about the little boy, though, so we're doing okay.
We're doing all right.
Not too bad.
A boy exists. I think you're all right.
That's the first like 30 seconds. I think we're cool.
Right. I think you're all right.
So yeah, spoilers from here on out. So this is the Bran stares theory. So Bran does some very intense staring throughout, predominantly in the first episode.
Right, and especially the end, the most memed one now is when Jaime Lannister walks in and Bran just stares at him. It says nothing.
So the first person that Bran has this stare with is Jon Snow, and of course he knows a very deep secret about Jon Snow.
Yes.
He looks at Dany and does another big long stare with Dany at one point, and he knows a secret about her too. She's not the right heir. She's not the true heir.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a few other people he stares at throughout the episode that I think that if he knows the secret about those first two, he might have a secret about these other ones. So Tyrion, after his talk with Sansa, gets a nice long stare. So what does he know about Tyrion? Right now, my leading theory is that Tyrion is a lost Targaryen.
Yeah, they had that theory going forward that he was like one of the slept with his dad, right?
Or no, the Mad King slept with his mother.
That's what it was. Okay.
And was infatuated with his mother, in fact. And then he killed her in childbirth, like most Targaryens. Yeah. So I think he knows the secret about Tyrion. He does a long stare with Sam, but I think Sam is off the hook because he told him to go tell Jon.
Right. There might not be a secret about Sam.
The other secret is that Sam could be a secret Targaryen.
Really?
The baby of Ilya Martell, who was supposedly killed by the Mountain, but was smuggled in the books is smuggled out and sent off with a family loyal to the Targaryens, like the Tarleys. And it would also explain his father's resentment towards him as being seen as his heir. He takes after his father Rhaegar in his love of books and poetry and song, and is more gentler and quiet. And his dad then, in kind of his own way of loving him, the mean bastard Tarly, sent him off to the wall to be removed
from the line of succession,
from the line of succession or anything that could touch him. So maybe
Targaryens get around, don't they?
Yeah. But maybe Tarly's dad is maybe off the hook and maybe did something good for his son without anyone knowing, if this theory holds true. So there might be a secret about Sam.
Interesting.
And then the last one is Jaime when he comes in. He gets a nice long look. The secret might be that Bran remembers him pushing him out of the window. It could be that Jaime is Azor Ahai. Who knows?
I really don't think Bran cares about being pushed out the window now, because I think he really just honestly thinks, hey, it's the path I was supposed to be on.
Yeah, he talked about that. He mentioned, like, if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't be the Three-Eyed Raven.
And the secret he might know, if there is one, is that Cersei isn't really pregnant.
Right.
And that might be the secret he knows. That
but those are the 5 people that he stares at. We know he knows secrets about at least 2 of them. Does it mean the same thing for the others?
Right. And to recap the Azor Ahai thing, now what's that all about? Because I know I've read things about it in the past, but our audience might not.
So the Azor Ahai thing is the second coming of R'hllor, the Lord of Light. Think Jesus to God. Like, that's really what it is. It's Jesus to God.
Melisandre, or whatever her name is.
Melisandre and the Red Priest, Thoros of Myr. We got to see another Red Priestess at some point in Essos. Tyrion and Varys. But they believe, for the most part, that she is the princess that was promised, Dany. But there are a lot of other theories of who else it could be, and Jaime is one of the sort of the leading contenders. Jon Snow, Daenerys, Jaime. There's some argument to be made for Sir Davos and a few others.
And somebody will kind of be the second coming of Jesus kind of thing and bring everybody together.
Yeah. He brought forth the magical flaming sword Lightbringer by plunging a sword into his lover's heart, and upon removing it, imbued the sword.
So that was something that I have a theory about, that there might, in order to fix this problem of who's going to take the Iron Throne in the end, that somehow Daenerys gets turned into a white, and so Jon Snow has to then kill her, and that would very much fit the prophecy of him putting it into his lover's heart.
Yeah, but I mean, it would also fit the prophecy of Jaime and Cersei, and then would also fulfill her prophecy that she will be strangled by her Valonqar, her younger brother.
Supposed to be strangled, huh?
So we could see two prophecies fulfilled at the same time if it's Jaime and Cersei.
And how much of these prophecies have they actually mentioned in the show? I don't think they've mentioned Azor
in the
Ahai
show.
at all.
They're peppered in. You get a lot of it in season 2 with Melisandre and the Red God. You get a little bit more of it when they're in Essos, and a little bit more from Thoros and Myr. Mostly Melisandre, though.
There's one scene between Bran, I think, and one of those scholar guys when he's in bed, talking about some of the old prophecies and stuff like that, I think.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't remember that.
Some small scene.
But yeah, so that's the Bran stairs theory.
Could all very well be true.
So what do you think is going to happen? Let's hear one of yours.
Well, just I have been following a lot of the trending theories out there. I haven't been following a lot of them this season.
Right.
But I just have feelings about what I think will happen and what I want to happen. And
let's talk about if this was any other normal, not George R. Martin written series, what we think would happen.
What they're setting it up to be would be obviously that Jon Snow and Daenerys somehow decide to rule together on the Iron Throne equally, and everything was in happiness and peace. They kill all the White Walkers, and everything's fine. But
right, and Sansa becomes the first lady of Winterfell. I believe the Night Watch become able to marry, and so Sam goes back to Night's Watch, and some of those feel goody kind of stuff, and people that did good by them throughout the war get happy endings, and Bronn finally gets his 2 castles by taking the Frey's castle.
The Mountain Man becomes like a protector of Arya, and they become friends forever. And not the Mountain, the Hound, and then
Gendry and Arya eventually get married, and they rule the Stormland. That could happen.
That was a great scene, by the way. Gendry and Arya. Hell yeah.
I think 60% of the people that we love are going to be gone
in this next episode.
Maybe not all in this next episode, but in the next 2, certainly.
Oh yeah, because it's gonna be like back to back. The battle at the battle at Winterfell.
Battle at Winterfell.
Immediately, Cersei attacking with the Golden Army. What are they called? The
Golden Company. There's a theory about them too, where they might betray Cersei because the Golden Company was founded by the Blackfyres, who are Targaryen bastards, who some crazy Targaryen king legitimized on his deathbed and started a huge rebellion. Like, it was a whole thing.
Oh goodness!
But they founded the Gold Company,
gotcha.
The Blackfyres.
But what I really think will happen is at least one of either Jon Snow or Daenerys will die. One of them will. If not,
Daenerys
both.
is definitely dead. Without a doubt in my head, Daenerys is dead.
You think so?
Jon might be dead. I'm going to give him a 25% chance of not making it.
And it's like, I know what Kate wants to happen. My girlfriend is obsessed with shipping Jon Snow and Sansa together. And she is insisting, even to this day, after all we've seen with Daenerys and him, like that, they're still going to get together. Because they'll realize that they're just cousins, whereas, him and Daenerys is aunt and nephew. And so cousins maybe isn't as bad as aunt and nephew.
Maybe not.
And there's been stares between Sansa not liking Daenerys and not liking her being in love with Jon. And she's insisting that all this means that they're actually going to be in love and rule together somehow. So that's what she wants to happen.
Maybe. But no, I think I am on the team of no one wins that the Night King wins.
You think that's really what's going to happen?
I don't. The Night King may not win, but the people that we love will lose.
So no one wins.
Kind of. Like I could see the Night King taking over. I think I've said this before, but the Night King wins. The remaining men head north of the wall, rebuild it, and now they are north of the wall. The wall continues to protect the realms of men.
Just on the opposite side.
They're just on the opposite side of it.
It's an interesting thought. Because there's
And
still
the
the
White
islands
Walkers
that are
now rule the
protected
south.
and other continents and stuff that we haven't even talked about that they don't really
True,
mention.
but the White Walker mythos actually exists in Essos as well, meaning that this walk could be happening everywhere in theory.
Right. Well, that's possible because they obviously have to have a world to continue on for the spin-off shows and all that kind of thing.
Unless the spin-off shows are all prequels.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they'll want to leave some. I think you're right, though, to go along with the theme of this show, how it feels, it's going to be a pretty bleak end and nothing to feel warm and fuzzy about, I don't think.
No. Like I think that they will destroy us as an audience this next episode.
Yeah.
Episode 4, they will give us a slight reprieve. And then episode 5 will again just be devastating.
And 6 will be like an epilogue.
And 6 will be the epilogue, yeah.
It'll just be like Sam and Tilly. Is that her name? Tilly? Like
Gilly.
Gilly and the little boy just kind of running away into the woods. And he somehow has Bran with him, and he has to protect the memory of all civilization, because that's what Bran represents at this point, being the Raven.
That's true. I have another theory about that, actually. It's a good lead in.
Sure.
Bran says that the Night King wants him. The Night King has come after Three-Eyed Ravens multiple times throughout history because he represents the history of man and all that mankind is. And Sam gives this little speech about that. Well, that speech is something that Sam heard down at the Citadel in Old Town from one of the Archmeisters when he was studying there. So my theory is that yes, he wants Bran, but his other ultimate goal is to wipe out Old Town, because that is the other repository of all the knowledge of men.
Right. And he said he wants to snuff out the light of man. I think he used the term light, and that there he wants just pure darkness.
But yeah, so I think that the Red Keep is like great. Everyone thinks that that's where the Night King's headed, but I think there might be another target.
Yeah, because what use does he have for like the Iron Throne? He doesn't give a shit about that.
Now, Mighty King's Landing does have like a huge populace of people, but why would he need to grow his army only grow stronger?
So he would just go to the most important target first, which first bulwark of defense is Winterfell, so you have to get rid of that. But then after that, you're right. The first priority would be all the knowledge and all,
So that's Bran and the Citadel.
Do you think we'll see any more magic? Will there be anybody who can wield magic that might help?
Yes. There is right now a theory that at the Battle of Winterfell that we will see Melisandre and maybe a battalion or a group of red priests from Volantis that come to help.
That would be interesting.
Their fire abilities and trickery and that kind of stuff would really come in handy.
Because the only magic we've seen from non-White Walkers is the fire sword that guy has.
That's not magic.
That's not magic?
No, it's like coated in oil and then he has to spark it with his hand.
Oh,
it's a
trick.
trick.
Magic. Okay.
Well, Dondarrion. Now in the book they make it clear that it's just trickery.
Okay. And then the only magic we've seen is obviously her walking in Targaryens being immune to fire.
There's also the Warlocks of Karth. There's also warging.
Yes, we've seen that
in season 1, season 2.
People being brought back to life, of course.
Right. The Three-Eyed Raven. Children of the Forest have some magical ability they've shown.
Aren't they all dead now, though?
Who knows? That group of them certainly is, but I don't know if they established that they were the last.
Yeah, that was a quick, that was that one season where they threw in all the magical stuff in one season. It was just
we haven't done Bran in 2 years.
And these crazy children of the forest.
So yes, I think Old Town is the other target.
That makes sense.
One thing I want to address is that Tyrion at one point, trying to calm down a group of lords, says, "We have brought 2 full-grown dragons." So dragons grow until they die. In this universe, dragons grow until they die. So Drogon and Viserys are Rhaegar. I don't know, whichever two are left. They're only a couple years old, and they're already huge. But Balerion the Dread, the big one from Tales of Past, lived to be over 200. And somebody online did a big scale comparison where they were like, here's Cersei with the skull of Balerion the Dread, and here's Cersei next to this person, and then therefore this person is up to this size, and then this is how big her dragon is compared to this one. And Balerion the Dread is almost twice the size of Drogon.
Oh.
So maybe because they're like stinted or later eggs or something, they're not expected to grow, but for dragons, they are definitely not full grown.
Yeah, I guess like there is no full grown, I guess. So he's just kind of a phrase he would just used to say they're big.
I know, but it was just one of those like, come on, you're not giving enough credit.
Right. Rhaegal, that was his name, the other dragon.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Arya.
Yeah, and I also
do you know anything about her
before I forget though, I want to mention Euron. What do you think his alliances will do once
Hot Topic Pirate?
Yeah, Hot Topic Pirate. Is he gonna?
He'll run.
You don't think he'll finally have a change of heart and try to help?
No, nothing has led me to believe that would be the case.
Yeah, probably not.
I do have a theory about him that surrounds his scenes with the Queen, though. Mm-hmm. So the Mountain is now the Queen's personal white.
Right.
He's got the discolored eyes, the dark blue eyes, or like dark eyes, and obeys the Queen without hesitation, and clearly has some sort of deeper telepathic kind of connection with the Queen.
Because without saying something, he knows what her wishes are, you know?
Yeah, the Mountain was intervened with Greyjoy getting past him on at least one or two occasions. And then with his back turned to the Queen and without her saying anything, he allowed Euron to pass without getting in his way.
And that's happened a couple other times too, actually, if I come to think of it.
So I think between Qyburn's necromancy mischief, like we could maybe the Queen will get her own undead army.
I don't know about undead army, but I think of more of the possibility that if he's brought back that way, maybe he has a connection to the Night King, and therefore the Night King is protecting her for a reason.
Maybe it's possible.
Maybe he could turn the mountain on her anytime he wanted to, but like he has a use for her. Probably just so, chaos and disorder to help him win, but also maybe because he wants her as the Night Queen.
Ooh, yeah, there is that theory.
Yes. So who knows? That's interesting.
So Arya, she's being super shady, even though she's happy to see everyone.
Well, I think she just doesn't trust anybody anymore.
So here, there were some weird things though that she chose not to share, and the first one that really came to my attention was why does Arya hide from Jon Snow the fact that she has a Valyrian steel blade?
She only showed her needle, right?
Needle, and then she shows him his, and he goes, Valyrian steel, you jealous? And she has, have any for me? But she doesn't volunteer up that she's carrying a Valyrian steel dagger.
Where'd she get the dagger from again?
That is the dagger that was used to attemptedly murder Bran. That was right. Littlefinger's dagger that he lies and says he gave to Tyrion or lost to Tyrion.
How'd she get it?
She got it from, oh God, I don't remember.
There's too much shit.
There's too much, dude. I don't know. She got the dagger. She has it.
That's all that matters.
Oh no, Littlefinger brought it and gave it to the family when he was still alive, I think. I think he gave it to Bran, and then Bran handed it off to her.
Yeah,
he said he had
this
no use
belongs
for it.
to you. And he gave it to him.
I loved your mother.
You're very attractive. I'll sleep with any Stark I can.
I'm going to kiss you on the mouth now. So yeah, Arya hiding stuff from Jon Snow even, and like strange stuff. Then she asks Gendry to build this weapon for her. It's basically been revealed that it's like a two-headed spear, but there's got to be more to it. There's clearly a piece that detached or something.
And why exactly she wanted that.
Right.
But another thing,
she's got stuff going on.
This is something that kind of goes back to like Kate's wanting Sansa and Jon to get together. But that scene with Arya and Jon Snow, when she says, I'm your family too, because she says Sansa is family, she's protecting her family. He goes, I'm your family too, and they hug, and she looks at the camera, kind of like, So I feel like she knows somehow already that he's not full family. I don't know how she would have known that, but it's like she gave a knowing look to the camera, almost like, you're not really family.
Wow.
I'm protecting Sansa, not you, kind of thing. No, no,
Oh, I'm
you're
one
right.
of the-
It's very
I'm-
shady.
I'm one of the people that thinks Arya is already dead.
What? Oh, this is somebody took
Yeah.
her face?
Yeah, that it's the waif, the blonde who tried to kill her when she was in training. They never show Arya actually kill her.
That is true.
And this is all her play because seasons ago they discussed hiring the Faceless Men to kill Dany.
Oh.
And this is her opportunity to get close to Dany.
Who was going to hire them to kill Dany?
I think it was either I think it might have been King Baratheon and Varys. Because they
Oh,
did try
long
to
time
get
ago.
other assassins to kill. Yeah, like early show. And this is like the long game. Because Jaqen H'ghar gives her that Arya that speech at one point. It's like, what is it? You know, what is time? It takes a day to kill him, a week to kill him, months, years to kill him. It doesn't matter to a faceless man.
That is interesting. It could be the waif this whole time.
This whole time.
That makes
It's
me
possible.
sad, but you know, I
It
really
would.
do love Arya.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
What about Varys himself? I've always loved Tyrion Varys combination. They're just amazing together.
I feel like they're not doing their normal shtick this season. It's
They
really
haven't as
suffering.
much. Yeah, that's true.
I know Varys is down in the crypts. Most people think the crypts are a death trap. At least that's most of the theories right now.
Everyone gets sent
Is
down
that-
there's gonna die. Even
Yeah, like they
Gilly.
kept saying it over and over again. Like, well, the crypts are the safest place you could be. Hey, I hear that you're going to be down in the crypts. That should be the safest place in the cap. You're like,
Nope.
nah, something's going to happen.
I also feel like because of how much time they focused on Brienne of Tarth this last episode, that she's definitely gonna die, even though I don't
Oh,
want her
she's
to.
definitely gone. She'll die protecting Jamie.
Ugh. I want them to go off and marry and be happy together.
Have giant buck teeth babies.
She doesn't have buck teeth.
In the book, she's much uglier.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Her nose is all messed up and her face is flat like a shovel. Like, it's real bad.
I'm glad they didn't go that direction.
No, they did not.
Oh man, yeah, because
and
she's
then-
like models on the side.
And then my final theory is, what is the Night King's message? Because they find little Lord Umber pinned up to the wall and that goofy spiral pattern
hmm
of arms and legs. And I think the message the Night King is sending is that he is the center of the storm, and soon they will all be his hands and feet.
That's interesting theory, but they also showed the parallels how that symbol, especially when it was on fire, looked a lot like the symbol for the Targaryen family.
Right. But and it also illustrates the fact that as he is at the center, if he is burned, the rest of the hands and feet burn with him.
Mm.
So they also kind of showed that as well.
Now, what did we ever figure out who he was and what family he's a descent or an ancestor of?
The Night King?
Yeah.
In theory, he's well, in the book, it's the Night's King. It's very different in the book.
Oh.
The White Walkers still exist, but the Night's King was the 13th Lord Commander of the Night Watch, who met a Ice Walker woman, fell in love with her, and together they ruled one of the castles on the wall, like with a brutal iron fist for years until the Night's Watch overthrew them.
Oh.
And so that might be the Night's King.
And he just ran off and escaped.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, the tree people made him.
Yes.
That's completely different from the book.
Maybe, but it's not definitive in the book if like the Night King is the Night's King. It's really confusing.
Oh, they're two separate things.
The book, yes, the book is not definitive on a lot of stuff that is definitive in the show.
Interesting. So it's still shady who he is exactly in the books.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And they're leaving it open now. I mean, everyone had that theory where Bran is the Night King somehow. But
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's more out the window.
Yeah, now that he's the Raven, I think it's less and less likely. But I mean, they seem to have some kind of connection, but it's hard to tell why. But anyways, and smaller characters, we have Grey Worm and his
Oh, he's dead.
lady friend.
Dead.
He's just not
I think
important
I
enough.
think the Unsullied as a whole are dead.
I think they'll just screw with us, and all these lesser characters that people don't really care about as much will survive, and all the main characters will die.
It'll be like, who's in charge now?
Yeah, Grey Worm, I guess. All right. Davos Seaworth, you think he's got a chance?
Maybe, I don't know. He kept bringing up that he's not a fighter. That came up like 3 times in the last 2 episodes.
That's true.
So I don't know. I really wish he would. He's one of my absolute favorites from early on. I think that everything is pointing at him going out trying to fight.
Probably. He's an honorable guy. That scene was great last episode with him and the little girl with the misshapen face, and it reminded him.
Oh, yeah, with the scar.
Yeah.
Princess Shireen.
Is that who that was?
Yep.
That was a princess? She looked like a peasant.
Yeah, no, that's who she reminded her of.
Oh, right. He reminded,
of the Princess Shireen.
Yes. And Jorah Mormont.
He is dead, probably.
I think they went through an awful lot of trouble to keep him alive and bring him back from the stone skin and everything to just kill him.
I think that only one of the Mormonts is going to live, and I think it's the girl.
Well, that's true. And what is his relation to her? Is he like an uncle or something?
They're cousins, technically.
Okay. We talked about Euron. What about Podrick?
Podrick is my other favorite for being a secret Targaryen. They showed that he can sing, and Rhaegar loved to sing. Just in this last episode, once again, baby about the right age. He falls into the exact same theory as Sam. Baby about the right age, trusted to a house loyal, in this case to the Lannisters. This adjusts the theory a little bit, that Tywin is the one that smuggled the baby out. So that he would have a card in his back pocket, a backup plan.
Gotcha.
And entrusted to the Paynes, a house loyal to the Lannisters. But he's about the right age. He's about the right temperament. Tywin Lannister went through trouble to keep him around. So Pod's my other favorite for maybe a secret Targaryen.
And all this being said, there is a lot here that they need to conclude in 4 more episodes.
Oh, I'm so excited to watch him try.
I think people might be a little upset with some of the loose ends they leave behind, because I don't know how they can tie all this up in 4 episodes.
It's easy. Everyone dies.
Then you don't have to answer anything.
Right. You don't have to answer any questions if everyone dies.
Except Grey Worm. He survives
Except
everything.
for Grey Worm.
No one cares. Oh, boy. Well, yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good talk. I'm excited to see what happens this season. I hope you guys are too.
I think after the last episode, we should have like a little recap, maybe not a full feature segment, but just a little recap of what we got right, what we got wrong, and kind of review.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely.
Said.
Well, I'd like as they go through the season for us to update the draft.
That's true. Yeah, we can just have a little segment.
Take points off and see who's in the lead.
I like it.
All right, I think that then takes us into some trailer reviews.
Yes.
Here at A Play on Nerds, we have spent years refining our exclusive trailer rating system.
At the low end of the scale, we have Burn It, where we think you should find every copy you can get your hands on and throw it into a barrel fire. To burn it, Fahrenheit 451 style.
And second from the bottom, we have We'll See. Maybe the trailer was too short. Maybe it was cut oddly. Or maybe we don't know what the hell we just watched.
We'll see. Up next, we have Give It a Buck. Whether you hit a red box, a dollar movie theater in the bad part of town, or a cheap online rental, give this movie a buck and enjoy it without breaking the bank.
And at the top of our rating system, we have Shut Up and Take My Money. The wallets have been charmed out of our pockets, and we are ready to make our hard-earned cash disappear.
And that's our patent-pending trailer rating system for A Play on Nerds.
Woo! So we actually have 2 pretty short ones today because they don't have a lot of talking in them. So I cut them down a bit. Which one do you want to talk about first, buddy?
Let's talk about The Boys.
All right, this is The Boys, which will be on Amazon, a series. We don't normally do TV series, but we are this time.
People love superheroes. But if you knew half the shit they get up to. Fucking diabolical. We're the world's greatest superheroes. And I can do whatever the fuck I want. Huh? Who's up for that? That's where I come in.
Come in to do what?
Spank the bastards.
How do you spank a superhero?
Boom.
Cool.
All right. So it has Carl Urban as the lead, which I love. He was so good in that show, Being Human, or Almost Human. That's what it was called. It was canceled way earlier in its time.
And also just great in Dread.
Oh, gosh, he's so good. And great in Star Trek, man.
Yeah, man.
Everything he does. But
so this seems to be a world where superheroes exist, and all the superheroes you expect There's a Superman equivalent. There's a Wonder Woman equivalent. There's an Invisible Man. I think looks like all the like sort of typical bases are covered. And Carl Urban's group is the group that's set to keep these people in line.
Because they're in a real world where they're really just, they're human and they do dickish stuff sometimes with their powers. Or terrible things, because it's a very gory trailer if you actually watch it. At one point, someone's like an Ant-Man equivalent. They shrink down and run up a woman's skirt and start pleasuring her. I don't know if it was consented or not. And then another time, a woman is sitting on a guy's face and having him pleasure her, and she accidentally crushes his skull. And she's like, oops. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on there.
I'm excited. This, and then along with what the hell did the anti-Superman movie we just reviewed?
Oh, right. I forgot what it's called.
You guys know from the other episode. And I think we're sort of seeing a backlash against the superhero genre. And I'm kind of excited to watch it happen. I'm excited for this kind of subgenre that's arising.
I think it's like just bound to happen. Something that gets so popular after a long time, like Westerns, you have Blazing Saddles and that kind of thing that kind of comment on what's in the zeitgeist. And there's going to be, more of these where it's be like, okay, we've had so much superhero stuff. How do we put a new spin on this or comment on it in some way? But yeah, it looks really well made and Carl Urban's awesome. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So
what's our next trailer?
What would you give it?
I'm already giving Amazon my money. So I guess I'll give it a buck.
Shut up and take my buck.
Yeah, you already have my buck.
There you go. That's kind of a new one.
So Amazon's already got my dollars. So yeah, we'll check it out.
All right. So our next one is for Star Wars: Rise of the Skywalkers, plural. I think.
Sure, plural.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now.
It's singular. It's Skywalker.
This is your fight. We'll always be with you. No one's ever really gone.
That's literally all the dialogue there was. There's a lot of flashing images, but it looks pretty badass.
Oh yeah, Emperor Palpatine's back in some way. Rey is jumping over a TIE fighter with a lightsaber out. Lando Calrissian's back, man.
Yep, and we got new lines from Mark Hamill, so that means he's definitely back as a Force ghost or something. So that's always good.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of fan theories thrown around right now. My favorite of which is that Palpatine, whose master was Dark Plagueis, was the Sith that learned how to conquer death. And I think the way he did that was by passing his Sith spirit from master to apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And so Palpatine is actually the living on of Darth Plagueis. And he has been from a distance grooming Rey and Kylo so that one of them he can take one of them.
Well, how did Snoke fit into that crap?
I think Snoke was a no one.
He was just just didn't matter at all.
I think Snoke was a trader or salvager who was salvaging parts out of the crashed Death Star and stumbled upon the Force spirit, the trapped Force spirit of Emperor Palpatine or Dark Plagueis.
Oh, so he didn't inhabit him, or at least guide him.
He was a pawn, but he wasn't a true Sith.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't call him like a Sith Lord or anything like that. He was just Snoke.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Whoever the hell that guy was.
So I think Snoke was literally a no one.
And we don't know what race he was or what. It's just like nothing was explained about Snoke. It was kind of pissed off a lot of fans.
Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of cool theories. I'm excited. And then Disney's announced after this, they're taking a break for a while.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, they've got other things they need to put time into, and they're going to take a lot of their creative force from this and put it elsewhere.
Probably all the Star Wars series they're making on Disney Plus.
Maybe.
Like the Mandalorian's budget looks gigantic. So I would not be surprised if they just put more of their focus on television for a bit. I mean, also Disney's making so many Marvel TV shows now. There's going to be like
that is very true.
Quicksilver, not Quicksilver, he's dead. It's like a Scarlet Witch Vision TV show, apparently.
Okay. It's like a comedy where they try to live in an apartment together.
That would be great, but I doubt it. But they're like the most powerful beings in the Avengers.
He like knocks a coffee cup off the corner with his elbow. She catches it with her red power and then like puts her hands on his hip and shakes her finger at him knowingly.
Vision, not again. And there's great YouTube videos out there of her losing her accent and gaining it back in different parts of the movies. Like now she just has an American accent suddenly, but she was totally Russian something before. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I was speaking of that. I should say, as good time as any to talk about it. I'm seeing Avengers Endgame tomorrow. Tomorrow is technically Thursday at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. So I'm excited.
So I've been trying to stay away from spoilers. But the one thing that I've heard in a lot of the reviews thus far is that we all knew that there's going to be time travel somewhere, some time element.
Right.
This one. And that it is not the most clear thing in the world. What they chose to do.
It's not the most clear.
Yeah, a lot of people said that it was kind of confusing.
Okay, so it's like hard to understand what exactly is going on.
Right.
I guess
so
that's
without any spoilers, that has been kind of one of the complaints of audiences.
Probably complicated is the situation.
Complicated, complex,
which is good, I think.
It's got a complex plot. There's a lot of it.
But I think I mentioned this before. A friend of mine rented out a whole theater.
You did?
Got all his friends to pay to sit. I hope he got his money back, but it's just an acquaintance of mine. But it'll be interesting. Just going there, people who are dedicated to watch it in a good environment and be quiet and pay attention and
shut the hell up.
And wear costumes and stuff. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Radical recommends?
I think it's time for some radical recommends. If I can find the button.
Recommend. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend Pleasant.
So this week I have a very random recommend. It's one practical one and one YouTube channel for you guys to check out. So the practical one is there's like a car situation.
Oh my God. There's two guys having a honking match out in front of our apartment.
What is the problem?
California sucks. That's what the problem is.
They're really angry at each other. Hope they don't get in a fight.
They're both paying 60% of their income to keep a roof over their head. That's what's going
That's
on.
That's true. So I have had back problems since I was like 19. I finally figured them out. I have 2 slip discs and I have arthritis in my back. Found out by personal trainer, but a physical therapist, that it actually, in new studies are showing, it's very common for a lot of people to have these same exact back problems, but they just don't have any pain, so they never get MRIs, and we don't know it. But something just trips some people up, and they end up having back pain. You have to retrain your nerves not to have that pain after a while. So by doing lots of exercises, and eventually your back will be normal again, which is great. It's very exciting. But for back pillows, I've had back pillows for the entire time I've had this problem, and I've been doing it wrong the whole time. So the problem is I always put it in my lower back where I had the pain. And then after about a half an hour, the pillow would always be ineffective and I'd have to take it out because it would just start hurting again.
Right.
And the reason was apparently the pillow was just putting pressure on the point that hurt. So it temporarily relieved the pain. It changed the signals being sent to the nerves. But after a while, the nerves were still in pain. So because there's still being pressure on my back. So it goes back to hurting again. So what you do is you pull the pillow up to your middle back and it curves your spine just the correct way. So where you're not putting pressure on your lower back and the pain is gone. And I can sit like that for more than 1 hour.
Very nice.
So it's so simple, just lifting. So your instinct is to put the pillow where the pain is, but that's the wrong instinct. Push it up to the middle back. It curves your spine, less pressure lower back, no more lower back pain. Just putting it out there, guys. Anyone else has that problem, try it out. The other one is a YouTube channel that I was actually a part of, which I forgot to mention earlier in the event. All right, so I found this YouTube channel through a friend of mine. He recommended I talk to this guy who made it, and eventually I became a part of it. It's called the Cinema Schlock Society, but it's on the Narcotic Casserole Productions YouTube channel. And basically, it's this really silly, fun thing that basically...
Narcotic what? Say that again. That's insane.
Yeah, Narcotic Casserole Productions. That's the YouTube channel. But the videos that I was a part of, which is called the Cinema Schlock Society. And basically, it's just a starting off thing. This guy's going to get better and better as it goes on with better production value and that kind of thing. But he watches terrible movies. And the character he plays is this kind of almost evil British villain kind of guy who really authentically loves these films. And he's forcing these people to watch them because he wants them to enjoy them like he does. But forcing them to watch them they all are miserable, and they actually watch the movie and then talk about it afterwards. It's kind of like a review of these really terrible movies.
Which episode are you on?
I'm on the upcoming one coming out soon, so it's not out yet. But we actually watched Shanghai Surprise, which is a movie with Madonna and Sean Penn when they were first married. And I didn't know it existed, and
dark.
It was racist. It was terrible. It was like one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And I like most movies, and this movie was awful. So it's just a really funny, silly channel, and they do some fun things on there, and it's getting better each time. They had a guest star recently who's a erotic clown, nerdy, like kind of pinup girl type of situation. She was on there, so that's kind of fun. But otherwise, it's just schlocky movies, and it's really fun. So check it out if you have some time.
Okay, well, my radical recommend also centers around schlocky movies.
Nice.
And this is a gentleman that I discovered in my deep dive of YouTube called Dark Corners Reviews, where he goes to the dark corners of cinema and reviews some of the worst and most obscure movies. Like, I pride myself on knowing bad movies. He goes deep and does really clever, very well produced reviews. He is amazingly funny. British guy. And does everything from, let's see, The Clones of Bruce Lee was one of the movies. He does Jaws 3 and 4, Frogs, and many, many more. He's been doing this for 6 years. He has a crazy amount of content, and he deserves way more subscribers than he has.
Nice.
So check him out. Hit subscribe. Dark Corners Reviews. He releases content every Tuesday and additionally does specials pretty regularly.
And we all love schlocky movies like this, so yeah, it's worth it.
And you can find him on Facebook, Dark Corner Reviews, and then on Twitter, he's Dark Corners 3.
Gotcha.
Bad call, dude.
3, the third one.
3. All right, good. Well, I'm glad we both recommended schlocky videos.
Absolutely. That takes us to our thank you section,
which we
can't play this music, so don't flag us, YouTube. Blah 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 blah. Ignore. So we got an email from Quirky Neuron, our sometime contributor now.
Oh boy, did we get an email.
So he is commenting on our episode Star Trek Into Darkness, where we reviewed that film, and he had some things to say about what we said. So
this, I just want to put a comment in. This is more what he wrote us more than we have been written in total.
Possibly.
Over the court, not even possibly. I am 100% sure that this is more words than every other word that has been written to us put together. I'm convinced of it.
It's possible. All right, so here we go. Delve right in, and Steve's going to stop me when he wants to respond to something, or I'll stop if I want to respond to something. Gentlemen, I was debating whether or not to write my favorite podcast host so I could tell them I strongly disagree with them. It seems a bit pretentious to do, and I struggled a while until a bit of serendipity made me realize that I don't have to argue my point. I can have you argue my point. While there's probably more beneath the surface to the issues you both took with Star Trek Into Darkness, the main ones you discussed were complaints about Benedict Cumberbatch not being intimidating or Montalban-esque enough, the film not being a Star Trek film, but rather an adventure film, and lastly, that the use of Khan's blood to cure Kirk broke the universe and killed the payoff of the death scene.
That's a pretty good synopsis.
Right. That's kind of like what we said initially in our episode.
Right.
So here's where he diverges. However, I think that you both suffered from a predisposition to not like the movie based on disappointments going into it, via casting and expectations, and an idolization of one of your favorite franchises, more so Jarman than Steve. However, I couldn't quite put my finger on what made me feel that way until I listened to the end of episode 29 and the beginning of episode 30 in your own podcasts, coincidentally the very next day. So we heard these early episodes.
That's right.
In podcast 29, Jarman notes that there are problems with the Star Trek universe. No currency and the existence of replicators would cause significant issues in terms of functional society. This is in addition to other episodes of your show, which note events like the metaphasic radiation at and Baku healing blindness. Oh wait, like the metaphysic radiation at Baku healing blindness. Okay, and other ailments in insurrection. That's true. And yet, using Khan's limited supply of blood to heal radiation breaks the entire universe because you could replicate it. The replicator breaks the universe, not Khan's blood.
So I can agree with this point. because he's right. We're willing to accept all other sorts of science nonsense and basically magic. Why aren't we willing to accept this? In my defense, however, Insurrection, I also thought was a really bad movie.
And most people do.
As well as this one. So that it's not better there. In fact, I think it's also terrible.
But from what I remember, the Baku, wasn't that the planet that they're on that they have to stay there to be living forever and all that jazz?
I thought it was the people, the Baku.
But they have a reason for like closing it off and keeping their society.
Isn't it a dance from the 80s, the Baku?
But they purposely are staying isolated and reversing their technology to be more like a egalitarian like farm society. So they're not going to let their be tested for, to save everybody else in the universe. I think they do argue or say that Khan's blood can't be replicated. They can't just replicate it. So that's not the broken part of it. It's just that obviously they would do something with it since it's saved. It can cure anything apparently. And so I think it's just more blatantly in your face kind of a universe breaker than say the replicator, which you could just play off to people in society still want to do things and achieve things. That's why replicators doesn't break society outright.
Right. But I see his point. We're willing to accept all sorts of other magic. Why not this?
Sure. Yeah.
Fine.
And I just wish they had a line.
Fair.
They really could have saved that problem because a lot of people complained about it by putting one line in that this is for some reason the only time they could use it. They couldn't use it again. If they had done that one line, it just would have explained a lot of things better, I think.
Right.
But I didn't think it broke the movie for me. And I will say off the get-go, I still enjoy this movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just
we tore this pretty hard though.
I think that we harped on those several points. I think we gave the wrong impression, at least for me, because I don't not enjoy this movie. I just think those few points that we brought up really kind of made it not great, in my opinion.
I stand behind most of my stance.
Yeah, I think so. So, okay, here we go. In addition, Steve claims that Kirk's death had no payoff because they resurrected him, ? It was an emotional moment that served to bond previously estranged characters, to be a throwback to the old movies, and to drive the plot by motivating a half-Vulcan to do something illogical by chasing down and fighting Khan, as well as drive the secondary plot by inspiring him to open up with Uhura. Not resurrecting Kirk does not work the same as not resurrecting Spock. Losing the captain of the Enterprise is a bigger deal, and it's not like it would have been better if they made the next movie Star Trek: The Search for Kirk.
All right, this is what I wrote the most response to because this was one that was I think more directed at my points.
Sure.
So the emotional moment between them as a bridge, I get that. You're right. Kirk and Spock spent most of the movie at odds or at each other's throats. So to have all that pretense drop away for this one nice moment, you're absolutely right. That I get. Same thing with the plot payoff for Uhura and Spock. Their relationship really dried what I'll call the C plot.
Mm-hmm.
For lack of a better term, really filled a lot of those gaps. And that I get it. You're right. Emotional payoff galore there. To be a throwback to the old movies, fine. This is where I have a problem. To drive the plot by motivating a half Vulcan to do something illogical by chasing down and fighting Khan. The movie opens with Spock diving into an active volcano to violate Starfleet regulations by blowing up an ice bomb. They didn't need to prove to me that he was illogical. They opened with it. So I don't think that this is some big payoff for Spock in that regard, like you're saying.
I think it would almost been more impressive if it wasn't such a exact copy of that scene. Because I do like it was. I remember in theaters being like, "This is badass." You're having a Vulcan who's like 5 times the strength of a human fighting Khan, which didn't happen in the other movie, and that's a great thing that he's motivated because he's pissed off that he killed his best friend or who would soon be his best friend. So it worked as a moment of badass. They're fighting. This is awesome, and I see how he got to that point because otherwise he's a Vulcan. He wouldn't do that. It's just that. I don't know. It's just kind of ham-fisted that they did the exact same scene as the other movie. It just was kind of unnecessary. This whole movie I felt was kind of unnecessary. They could have just gone so many different directions with a giant universe to play with and so many episodes they could have done that would have been really cool as a movie. And so it's kind of misses the larger point that this whole movie was unnecessary and missed the mark.
And I think that Kevin actually said my next point in his quote, which is not resurrecting Kirk is not the same as not resurrecting Spock. Losing the captain of the Enterprise is a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. And that's where they got it right. It proved to audiences that this was a bigger deal. And that is why I felt that much more betrayed at the end when they brought him back.
with just random blood.
And, you know, magic aside, because as I said, I absolutely get his point that like we accept all this other nonsense.
Right.
Why wouldn't we accept this? Fair, magic blood. I'm down. I get that, but once again, it's just they made me feel like this was so much more important, and then I feel like they dashed me.
Right. It didn't get him coming back.
It was a bigger deal, and that was a good thing.
And him coming back so fast and easily just didn't have as much weight. It takes away that weight, basically.
And I did feel that way. I do see Quirky Neuron's point, but I agree that it was a bigger deal, and that was my problem.
Right. So none of his points are wrong here. It's just a differing matter of opinions about what has importance or what we think made it a shittier film. It's okay. So the start of episode 30 then touched on the new release of Star Wars.
Oh my God. Okay.
The start of episode 30 then touched on the new release of Star Wars episode 7's trailer and the outpouring of hate from lonely white dorks who don't have like a black stormtrooper or Kylo Ren's tri-tipped lightsaber. Your responses were, get over yourself, he can be black or white, and that people were overanalyzing the tri-tip lightsaber and should be open to new twists on old franchises. So a stormtrooper can be black or white, but Khan must be at least some shade of brown. And new twists on old stories work for Star Wars, but not Star Trek. So right off the bat, it's a false equivalency there, kind of, because
I got the same thing. Same thing.
He's just a stormtrooper. Of course, he can be black. He's not a already pre-established character. I don't really care if they purposely choose to change the race of a established character when they reboot a film or something. Like if they had made Iron Fist actually Asian, or if they reboot Star Wars on the line and make, you know, Darth Vader black or something. I mean, no, even though his voice actor is black.
That's true.
But I don't care about that. But see, the point is, and something I think we harped on more is not the fact that he's not brown, Benedict Cumberbatch. It's just that he doesn't have what you would think if you're casting the role of Khan, a genetically perfect human being who is stronger than 10 men and as intelligent as 10 men. It doesn't really matter what his race is. It's just that you don't think first Benedict Cumberbatch when you think of that. Smarts, yes, but not imposing figure is what that embodies Khan. And so I was able to get over it and watch the movie, but he just doesn't have an imposing presence.
See, I think this is a false equivalency for a different reason.
Okay.
And it's that the original Stormtroopers were clones of Jango Fett, who was played by a person of color.
Sure. Yeah.
A nice half Maori gentleman from New Zealand called Tamora Morrison played Jango Fett, not a white guy. If anything, I don't think it's a right equivalency, because at least Star Wars went more in the diverse way.
Sure.
As opposed to Star Trek, where a bunch of white guys were sitting around a table and were like, hey, you know what Star Trek needs? More white people. Am I right? And they all high-fived. And then some scriptwriter went, but wait, it's Khan. Should we just change the character? And they said, there's no time, Dennis. Sit down. And they just went with Khan anyway.
And that's why
I think Star Wars got it right by just going more diverse.
Right. And I think I like the fact that we found in the research that they did actually try to cast several Latin men before they got to Benedict Cumberbatch.
A lot, actually. Wasn't it like 5 or 6 guys?
Yeah. And the biggest choice was, what's his face? Benicio del Toro. And that would have been a great choice. There's a lot of other great choices they tried. So I respect the fact that they did try. It's just that the final result they eventually went with kind of stinks because it's not an imposing Khan figure. And I really wouldn't care what his race was. It's just a matter of, and Benedict Cumberbatch is a fantastic actor and he acted the hell out of it, the best visibility. But just that it was just a miscast, in my opinion. It doesn't, but that in itself doesn't ruin the film for me. It's just and nothing ruined the film for me. I thought it was still fine. It's just there were so many things that could have been so much better.
Well, I mean, in the world of Star Trek, they could have made any villain.
Sure. There's already established ones they could have done too.
They could have learned from the success of Khan and chosen a different obscure villain from the original series and updated it and made an homage to Khan that way.
Yeah.
But they didn't. That's not what they chose to do. They chose to take the most iconic villain in Star Trek history and then just threw everything away to the point where he wasn't that villain. He wasn't Khan.
It really just, in the joy, that's something that was completely missing from Khan that was always there. Even when he was angry, he still had a smile on his face and he was maniacally going to kill you and be happy about it. And that was nothing at all like what we saw in this film. It was not the same person. So it goes beyond the casting.
In that, if I think Cumberbatch did a brilliant job, I wouldn't care about any of these things, but I don't think Cumberbatch did a brilliant job.
I think
he played very flat.
And I wonder how much that was direction in the script. Like you know.
And not only that, he was, most of his big kind of darker scenes are against Chris Pine, and Chris Pine as an actor externalizes everything. He very much wears his emotions through his actions and through his visuals, versus Cumberbatch, who's a much more withdrawn actor, an internalizing actor. And so he might have just seemed flat because he was put up against an actor like Chris Pine.
Whereas Ricardo Montalban against William Shatner was still over William Shatner, which is hard to do. And Montalban
Shatner,
did it.
Like Chris Pine, is also an externalizing actor. In that way, they're very much the same.
That's what I'm saying. And Montalban, even though Shatner is external, he was even more external than Shatner. You know, he was like chewing the scenery, which is great.
Yeah. So I get his point. It's not Daniel Cumberbatch's fault. I think it's the producers and the writers for insisting that they use this character when they could have done something, I think, infinitely better with Cumberbatch.
And the main complaint people had about Star Wars Episode 7 was not that it was a bad film. It's just that it was almost scene for scene, plot point by plot point, the same movie as A New Hope. And so, but people still loved it. And a lot of people still really like Into Darkness. I like Into Darkness. But my main complaint is that they retreaded something they didn't have to retread. There's so much stuff they could have done. Just like with Star Wars Episode 7, they could have done a lot more than the same exact plot points as A New Hope. But it was still a good flick. It was still all right. All right. So
and then Quirky goes into this whole diatribe where we're the terrible nerds who are killing the movie industry.
Oh, let's see here. Okay, so, all right, here's what he says. And then came the icing on the cake. Your podcast transitioned to the recent announcement of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, claiming it as fantastic. The same Doctor Strange who literally looks exactly like Ricardo Montalban in the original comics. Go to an image search of Doctor Strange and a young mustachioed Ricardo and tell me it's not an identical match. Do it, he says. So old Benny is good enough to be a Marvel superhero, but not Star Trek. I see how this works. Not quite, because... First of all, I don't have information about Doctor Strange going back generations. I've never actually, watched it or read the comics or anything. From what I remembered, was a mustachioed guy who, had dark hair, kind of darker features, but, I wouldn't know what kind of race he was. At the same time, though, when I think Doctor Strange, if you're going to cast that, no matter what race it is, you want a very kind of wily, very intelligent, very fierce eyes, very kind of magical dude. And there's nothing about Benedict Cumberbatch that's wrong about that, I think they're thinking about Johnny Depp. They threw out a lot of different people, not Joaquin Phoenix, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with that casting. As far as if you're being race blind, it's fine. If you're being race blind about Khan, it's not fine to cast Benedict Cumberbatch because he's not a giant, imposing, charismatic, fun villain. It wasn't. So yeah. I also think that was a false equivalency. Do you have anything to say about that one?
Nah, we're good.
Okay.
I covered most of my stuff earlier.
Okay, so we're almost there. It says, look, I'm not really upset about this, but I just get frustrated with my fellow Star Trek fans, Star Wars fans, MCU fans, etc., who get so stuck on what a movie should be that they can't just enjoy a fun movie from their own franchise anymore. It leads to poor reviews, then to cancellations of projects. See Solo. I actually love Solo. And then to fewer of the movies you want more of. It works against your actual goals. Case in point, the criticism that this was more of an adventure film than a Star Trek film, and the indication that Jarman was actually disappointed that this was the highest grossed Star Trek movie in the history of the franchise. The other side of that coin is that this movie was solidly reviewed by audiences as an entertaining action flick, sci-fi action flick, energized many new fans about the Star Trek universe, and tried to pay tribute to an old classic Trek storyline without being a remake. But the simple fact that Trek diehards were upset with the problems you identify led the developers to try and go in a different direction, leading to the poorest gross earnings of the Kelvin timeline, and now to the studio balking at paying the actors enough to keep the franchise going due to historical performance. The movie was beautifully shot, epic proportions, adventure sci-fi extravaganza, and had twists and turns throughout. That's not necessarily a bad thing, even if it's different. Anyways, I'll forgive you two for ruining the entire movie franchise all by yourselves and keep listening anyways. Thanks for reading. He was obviously joking there, Steve, but he's not.
Well, so I guess my final point is, and I think we've actually talked about this on the show before, is that I disagree with his bad reviews and, not hitting box office marks, because as consumers, I think that is the best way for us to tell the movie industry that we don't like what they're doing.
Right.
That's how you vote for movies. You vote with your dollars. Because the fact is like the Transformers have gotten worse, besides Bumblebee, which was actually very, very good. have gotten worse and worse and worse, but every time they release one, it makes $750 million somehow.
Yeah, and the studio who made...
People keep voting for it with money, no matter how bad people say it is.
And since Star Trek Into Darkness made so much money, they weren't going to change anything that they didn't have to change. They made Star Trek Beyond, and it just didn't do as well. But that wasn't because they listened to diehard fans who wanted a different kind of story or do something different. Then they just didn't hit the mark like they did with Into Darkness, because Into Darkness was a success, like you said. So we didn't change that they moved forward with Beyond, and that one didn't do as well. I actually liked Beyond more than Into Darkness. I liked Beyond a lot, actually. The villain kind of was boring, but I liked it. But
he's going to hate that I say that, but it felt much more like a Star Trek film.
It did. And that had nothing to do with Trek fans begging for that. They did exactly what they were going to do because they made so much money and just happened to not work. They're not going to listen to us unless the money says so, you know? I'd like to think they would, but they don't.
Are we at the end? We're close?
We're at the end. That was it. That was the whole thing.
Okay. So, Quirky, I hope we answered everything. I can't wait to hear your retorts. Do me a favor. Can we digest these things in like 3-paragraph chunks, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to hash this stuff out, and I'm so excited you're listening through the back catalog.
And that he's passionate, too. It's great.
Listen to things and call us on things and tell us where we were wrong. But like maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. And we'll just cut it. We'll cut it up.
But those were all, and like, I don't think any of your points are wrong. It's just that I think we're allowed to have legitimate complaints about things that don't fit in the universe, things that may be lazy plot points, things that are kind of lazy remakes of old things that we wish were different.
I think what it comes down to for me is I don't think Cumberbatch did a great job, and I think I blamed it on a lot of other things. Whereas really my heart is that I don't think that Cumberbatch did a very good job.
And that's fair. And we're allowed to have those opinions. And I think it's good to say bad things about franchises you like if they're going in the wrong direction you don't like, because you want it to go differently. We can't just approve of everything in a franchise, because then they'll just do whatever the fuck they want. But if people are showing they really enjoy Star Trek Discovery with their dollars, with actually watching it, and so they're going to make more shows like that. If they complain, say this was a lazy rehash of a Khan story that wasn't done very well, and then that franchise kind of died out, and now they're focusing on the TV universe where Star Trek kind of really belongs.
I'm just mad they didn't make the second film about them bringing back the silicon amorphous blob from the original series.
That would have been fantastic.
That would have just been a great, and just fight an amorphous blob for 3 hours.
Pain.
Thank you again, Quirky Neuron.
Yes, thank you so much.
That is the most dedicated fan anything we have ever received ever.
And it was fun to talk about, even though we can both be right, both be wrong. So we have our own opinions.
Probably wrong.
Who knows?
All right. Well, that has been the episode, folks.
It sure has.
We're excited to see what happens with Game of Thrones. We're excited to hear from you, our listeners. We will keep coming back and being your nerdy co-hosts if you keep coming back and being our nerdy audience. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Find all of this content and even more nerdy news, reviews, and fun at www.aplayonnerds.com.
Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter so you know the exact second we release new podcasts, articles, and other nerdy content. We know you're impatient.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, Podbean, Buzzsprout, Podomatic, and whatever the hell else you use.
Also, please leave us a rating and review on your chosen podcast platform so we can be discovered by even more nerds like yourself.
However you do it, check us out.
And how.